What's up, everybody? This is Mario, and welcome back to another episode of Talking Endurance and Mastery. And today is the day. So many of you have been listening for a while, and you know that I started this podcast a year ago. And when I did, I committed to doing an episode every single day for a year. And today is a big day because this is episode 365 of that challenge. Now, I know that it's officially episode 367, but that's just because I had done two episodes a few months earlier before I decided to take on this new endurance challenge. And if I were to take myself back to that original moment, the reason why I did it was because I felt called and I felt inspired to do it. And I wanted to share my voice and discover my voice and share what I had learned and learn through this process about who I was and what I was capable of. And I'm just so grateful for everybody, every single one of you who has listened to just one episode or several episodes, or people have been reaching out and sending me texts and calls and reviews and Facebook messages and Instagram DMs saying that you've been enjoying and resonating with this podcast. And that just means so much to me because, when I first started this challenge, I didn't really tell a lot of people about it. And that's because I was afraid. I was worried about what would people think. Would they resonate with the message? Would they not resonate with it? And I just had so many kind of fears of going after it. And it was a few months into it that I had really announced it on Facebook and then had friends and family that had been reaching out. And I'm just so grateful. That's the number one thing. I'm just so grateful for everybody for listening and encouraging me. And I just wanted to say thank you. And so that's how I wanted to start off this episode today. But with that out of the way, let's get into the content because I want to show up and I want to bring my best. And like I've been talking about lately, I'm thinking a lot about ultra marathon prep. And now that I'm less than 2 weeks out, I'm really focused on mental prep. And I did an episode yesterday talking about 3 takeaways from David Goggins, one of the baddest dudes on the planet. And today, what I want to do is I just want to share a couple of takeaways from Chad Wright. And Chad Wright is also a former US Navy SEAL, has an amazing story. He's also gotten into the world of ultra endurance events, and he has two really powerful lessons that really resonated with me through podcasts that I've listened to of his and interviews. And I want to tell his story. I want to share those two powerful takeaways, and I want to tie it back to you with your goals and your dreams. And first, I'm going to roll the trailer and then we're going to get into it. Do you want to complete an endurance event and elevate all areas of your life, but you don't know where to start? Then you're in the right place. Talking Endurance and Mastery is a podcast to help you create a vision and take steps towards your goals and dreams. I'm your coach, Mario Minner. I've completed events like Ironmans and ultramarathons, but I believe the true benefit from endurance events is how they help you become the best version of yourself. Join me as I share stories, lessons, and interview guests to help you apply endurance and mastery principles into every area of your life. Are you ready? Let's go. All right. So if you haven't heard of Chad Wright, that's CHADD Wright, WRIGHT, then you are missing out because Chad Wright is an amazing guy. He's a former US Navy SEAL. He's an ultra marathoner. He's a Christian. He's a coach. He's an influencer. And he's also the creator of the 3 of 7 project. And I really like the 3 of 7 project because their mission is, pretty closely aligned to Endurify. And he talks about the mission of 3 of 7 is to provide a resource that gives you knowledge and the ability to complete yourself through the nourishment of your body, your soul, and your spirit. And they they do a really good job of providing resources and content that can help you with all three of those, the body, soul, and spirit. And he talks about with those three things that you need to really ask yourself, what are you doing to nourish your body, your soul, and your spirit? And looking at each of those individually and asking that question about each individual area. And, when you think about your body, your soul, and your spirit, you also want to ask, are you growing in these areas or is there a deficit? And another question that you can ask yourself is, what are you doing to train yourself in those different areas? So, that's just a little bit about the 3 of 7 project from Chad. But from all of the interviews that I've listened to from Chad and all the different podcasts, he is best known for these two powerful lessons that really resonated with me that I'm going to be thinking about for my ultra marathon. And the first is the power of spoken word. And the second is this idea of don't die in the chair. Now, the first one, power of the spoken word, he talks about how important and how powerful our spoken words really are. And it's basically a call to action to help us understand the importance of paying attention to the words that you use out loud. And when he was talking about this with Rich Roll on the Rich Roll podcast, he was talking about how important the power of the spoken word was and how impactful that is on your performance. Rich asked him to give an example. And what he did is he he told the story of some of his friends who were going through US Navy SEAL training with him. And there was a guy who was more physically gifted than he was, or who was as physically gifted as Chad was. And one day he came up to Chad and said, Chad, I just, I don't think I'm good enough to make it through this training. And Chad just knew that once he had said that out loud, that was the beginning of the end for him. And it's okay to have those negative thoughts, in your head, but when you speak them out loud in a situation like that, Chad just really believes that that's kind of the beginning of the end. And so it turns out that for him, for the individual who said those words shortly after he ended up quitting the US Navy SEAL training. And Chad knew that this guy was physically capable. He was really smart. He had all of the tools. He just wasn't able to mentally, push through it. And it's kind of one of those things where once you say that you're going to quit out loud, then you can't really come back from that. And another example, so that's just one example from his Navy SEAL days, but another example was from a backyard last man standing ultra marathon that he was doing. And this is the type of race where you have to do like 4.2 miles every hour, and you basically repeat this process, and there's a lot of elevation gain in those 4.2 miles. You basically repeat this process until there's until there's only one person who is still standing. And these events can take, all day, multiple days, overnight, people, not sleeping type of thing. And what Chad did is he ended up meeting somebody who is named Thomas. And Thomas was a young man, and he had only done a 10K prior to this event. And Chad was doing a lap with this young gentleman, and he basically took him under his wing, and he said, Thomas, like, I want you to listen to me, because when he was looking at Thomas, he saw that he was just hurting badly. And he basically told him, like, I want to take you under my wing, and I want to coach you, and I want to train you. And Thomas, who was like struggling, said, okay, yeah, sure. Just tell me, what do I need to do to get through this? He goes, I want you to say, I will never quit. And he's like, what? Like, okay, yeah, he said it. He's like, I will never quit. And Chad's like, no, like you need to yell it out loud and, say it like you mean it type of thing. And he ended up doing that. He shouted it as he was out there. And he ended up every time that he saw Thomas, he said, Thomas, let me hear it. And he ended up saying, I will not quit. And he did that from the beginning of the race, going from never only having done a 10K to successfully doing 100 miles in that race. And that's just taking somebody who's just a regular guy, wasn't even probably really well trained, and he was able to use the power of the spoken word in order to state that he will never quit, say it out loud, and achieve his goal. And so that was the first, lesson in the power of the spoken word. Now, the second lesson that he talks about is don't die in the chair. And this is also an ultra marathon phrase because in this last man standing, once you do your 4.2 miles or whatever, you can sit in the chair, you can lay down before the next loop starts, in an hour. And or in the however much time it takes in order for you to start on the lap every hour. And the whole idea of don't die in the chair is you're not going to quit sitting down. If you're going to quit, if you're going to give up in an ultra marathon like this, then you've got to do it out on the course. You've basically got to leave it all out on the course. And I think that it's just a powerful phrase that he's uh or a powerful lesson that he shared on multiple episodes, multiple interviews that I wanted to share with you. And so those are the two. Number one, it's the power of the spoken word. And then number two is don't die in the chair. And I think with the one that really resonates with me is just the power of the spoken word. And as I'm thinking about this podcast, for me, it all started with an idea of, oh, I think I want to start a podcast. And I actually said it out loud like that. And I remember telling my wife, just saying, I think I want to start a podcast. And it wasn't even like with tons of, authority or tons of credibility or certainty that I'm going to start a podcast. It just kind of started off with, I felt something in my heart. I felt it in my mind. And I just said, I think I want to start a podcast. And that's how it starts. Once I spoke that into existence, then I said, I'm going to do a podcast every single day for a year, regardless of how I felt, regardless of what was going on, regardless of if you're traveling or if I had a long day at work or whatever. I was going to do a podcast every single day for a year. And guess what? Here we are. And because of that, because of showing up, because of doing a podcast every single day, it's now ranked in the top 10% of podcasts worldwide out of 2.6 something million podcasts in the whole world. We are in the top 10%. And I think a big part of that was actually the power of the spoken word. And one other part that Chad talks about with that is how your tongue is the rudder. It's that rudder of your life. So you need to be aware of how, how is your rudder or how's your tongue doing even during those times of adversity. And so this whole podcast, what we're talking about, those two lessons. Number one, the power of the spoken word. Number two, don't die in the chair. That's what I'm thinking about as I'm getting ready for the ultra marathon. What is my mantra going to be? What am I going to be saying out loud when it's hard at mile 20, 25, 30, 40, 45, 47, all the way until the finish line. And so as I bring it back to you with these two powerful lessons, when it comes to adversity, when it comes to, challenges, what words are you using? And what are the words that you're using and saying out loud? That is the question. I want to make sure that you're using empowering language, positive language to help you reach your goals. And then the second, don't die in the chair. Don't give up, when you're in bed, when when you're out there, right? You want to be in the action. You want to be trying to move forward as much as you can. And so those are my two lessons. Those are my two takeaways that I wanted to share with you today. And that is my message. And again, I just want to close this out with the same way that I did at the beginning. Just want to say thank you. Want to say I'm so grateful for every single one of you who has been listening, who's been encouraging me. And I am just so grateful for that. And I've learned so much. And in in terms of that, with everything that I've learned, I kind of want to do something kind of fun, something different, and start to shift this a little bit rather than doing a recorded podcast where I'm sharing all of the lessons that I've learned over the past year from doing a podcast every day. I want to do it live, and I want to do this on Instagram Live. So, what I'm going to be doing, so tomorrow, Wednesday night, at around 7:30, I'm going to be going live on Instagram, and I'm going to be sharing different lessons that I've learned along the way from doing a podcast every single day for a year. And I want you all to be there. So all you got to do around 7:30, that's 7:30 p.m. Central, check out my Instagram, click on my little head, and you'll be able to jump in, and you'll be able to comment. And I'm going to try and make it fun, try and make it engaging. And if it goes well, might do another one. And if it goes well, I also might try and record it in podcast form. But that's one thing that I want you all to know about. One other thing that I do want you all to know about is that I am going to be taking a short little break. Be taking maybe a week or two break from the podcast. I'm just going to recover, just kind of focus on the ultra marathon. And I'm going to kind of think about everything that I've learned from doing the podcast. And then I'm going to come back better and adjust kind of the future of the podcast. I want to think about what's working, what's not working, and I need your help with that. So if you've enjoyed certain podcasts, if you enjoyed like the format, reach out and let me know what you like. And also, if you have ideas of how this podcast can grow and can improve in the future, I also want to know that. I'm a big believer in getting feedback on what's working, what's not working, and using that to shape and grow as an individual. And I want to do the same thing with this podcast. So, like I have done in other episodes, you can reach out to me through email, mario@endurify.co, or you can just send me a text, 608-770-3437, or you can just connect with me on social media and reach out to me. Would love to get in touch with you. So that is what I have for today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you all so much. And until next time, I'll talk to y'all later.